So I was sick for a while, but now I am healthy. My voice works again, and I've got an interesting one for you. Dynamic lookup column and answer column. So if we quickly look at the data here, sometimes it starts off with a simple VLOOKUP where you're saying, I want to look for horse. We're going to type quick VLOOKUP, go like this, and I'm always looking in the first column. I'm highlighting the whole range. Press F4. I'll give a 5, so our answer is the fifth column, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and comma 0 for exact match. We're going to get 4033. So that is our answer, because we're always looking in the first column in the VLOOKUP, and then a 6 means it's the sixth column, and we get our answer over here. Now, someone could say, well, I want to make the answer column a variable, so the answer could be any of those 4. Well, we could do that. We type in data 4, or we have a drop-down list. We select it, and then see how here the VLOOKUP just needs a number for this particular argument, column index number. We could use a match instead. So in here we put the match function looking for data 4, what we selected, across the top. So that works as well. Then we can change this to data 3, and we see our answer change to 4006 over here, because we're looking for horse there, data 3 across the top. This is the value that corresponds, 4006. But what if someone then says, well, I also want to make the where we're looking dynamic as well. So I might not be looking in this column. It could be this column here for Spanish, or this column for French. That's when it gets a little tricky. So we can do it, but it does take a few steps. And in my case, someone only had they told me less than 5 minutes to build the whole solution. So let's take a look. First of all, we need to create a little drop down. It's pretty simple. Just data validation for these 3. And for data 3, it's also a drop down list to pick one of those 4. So now we're going to go to the next step, which is match the language in the column headers. So we do something like this one here. So we need to go into data validation, and we need to create a formula like this. This long formula, I'll show you what it does in a cell instead. So we want to go get the values, right? If it says Spanish here, we want to go to Spanish and pull in all 6 of these animal names in Spanish. If it's French, we go across to French and grab these 6. So inside of this formula, if I were to highlight it and press F9, we see all 6 of them just like we have here. So this is how it works. Starting point, we're going to this cell here that's light blue. We're putting a 0. We don't want to go down any rows. This is the columns, simply a number. The match evaluates to a number of how far across the top we find the word Spanish. So that will give us, press F9, a 2. And then, of course, we're not looking for a single value. We want a range of values, so we're using these optional parameters. Any parameter with square brackets is technically optional. So we're putting a 6 because there's 6 values. That's our height, and the width is 1, only one column. So we take this formula, we put it inside of data validation, and let's just click this to make sure it's working. So that's the drop-down list. So just to prove it, let's go back here to French, select French, and now in our list we have French options. If I go back to Spanish, we see it goes back to the Spanish values. So we'll pick gato, the second item in the list. So now we've selected we've created our animal drop-down list. So let's now create our final formula. This one will be a bit long, but we are almost done. So offset once again. This is our starting point. Best practice, I'm going to press the F4 key to lock it. And now what we want to do is basically create a range that the first column will be whatever we selected, Spanish, and sort of create the box. And we could actually put a formula around that one. Okay, anyways. So first thing is we're going down 0 rows, a comma. And let me just move this thing over. How many columns to the right? So that's going to be looking for, once again, for our Spanish across the top, like this. F4 to lock it, a 0. Okay, and now we put in our height of 6, and now we need to put in the width. So this is a little bit tricky part here. Let's try this. We're going to, because the width is just a number as well. So we're going to say match data across the top, because in this case we have Spanish and data 3, so really it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns wide. So the 6 is the easy part. We always know we want 6 down, but how many across the top? If it was English and data 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well. So we're just going to look for the data part across the top minus looking for a match of Spanish across the top, comma 0, and then we have to do a plus 1. So let's see if this works. Hit enter, and of course it says value error, but this is a dynamic range. Let's highlight this whole thing and see if all of our lookup values are inside of here. So we have, it's basically creating this whole area in here, this whole range. Now to know if it works, we have to do one last little thing here. What we can do is a VLOOKUP looking for our actual lookup value. We haven't used this yet, so we're looking up that cell, happens to be Gato this time. That's our whole long table array. And now for the column index number, which is this one, I need to go at the end here, as I actually off the screen. I'm just going to copy this part again. I can recycle this or reuse it. Copy that and put it at the end here. And then you see the argument. So this is kind of dynamic. You have to download the file to see the whole thing. But I have a comma at the end, and we're looking for a 0, and I press enter. Now, believe it or not, let's make sure this works. We're looking in the Spanish column. Okay, so let's take this off. This was for our original example. Let's just remove the color. We're looking for, in the Spanish column, we're looking for a gato, which is this one. Okay, let's make that stand out. And our answer should come from column data 3, which is here. So let's highlight this in yellow, data 3 in yellow, and here we go. That's our answer. And of course, it is 2090. So let's change this up. Let's make sure this is working. Now we're going to pick English, and now of course we get an error because gato is not in English. So we're going to change this to dog. We're going to change data 3 to data 4. And what should we get now? English. So we're looking for English. Let's make this green. And we want data 4. Answer comes from over there. And it's dog, which is this one. So our answer should be 1078, which it is, which is right there. So let's do one more. Unbelievable how when you practice this stuff, it actually seems kind of natural. So now we're looking in French. I'll color code this as well. Let's make that orange. Let's make this data 1. Our answer comes from data 1. And in the French column, let's look for lion at the bottom there. And okay, so we have French, we have lion, and our answer comes from data 1, which is here. And it is a 6000, which is right there. When you're ever in doubt, I always tell people do this. They're all numbers. It can get confusing. Type in the word test. It's the only word out of all these are numbers except for this now is test. Here we see test, and we know it's working.